And joining me right now here on the Mark Moses Show, this guy does a great job covering college football and basketball for his great online newspaper, the Augusta Free Press. He's my great friend, Chris Graham. Chris, how you doing today?
Mark, it's great to talk to you, man.
Is that a good enough intro for you, or is I missing something? That's the question.
No, you overstated the case, so I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
Let's start with college basketball from the standpoint of why is the biggest headline right now court storming and what we should do with it? The floor is yours.
Well, it's because Duke was involved in a way that made Duke look bad. I'm half surprised that the ACC didn't figure out a way to take that win from Wake Forest after the game. No, if this was Kennesaw State versus Lipscomb, I don't know that any of us would have even seen the highlights, much less anything else. But I mean, it's a serious issue. You go to a lot of basketball games, pro and college. I go to a lot of basketball games at the college level. We're long since past the time when fans need to storm the court, or you should be happy your team won, but this court storming thing is just ridiculous. But no, it's only getting headlines because it involves Duke.
What's the best court storming game you've ever went to?
Probably a Duke game, Virginia versus Duke, and now in the old arena that Virginia played in, University Hall, 2001. Virginia won the game with a layup that was, it was like 0.8 of a second left or something on the clock, and won the game by 2 points. And now, so I'll say that's the best. It's also an example of why these things are dangerous. Back then the media section was on the floor. There were 3 rows of media on the floor behind the scorer's table, and the nice lady who had worked in the media relations area at UVA athletics for a number of years. She sat on the end of the row. She got up. She was trampled by people running by, ended up with a broken arm, and 2 football players actually shielded her, or she would have gotten really seriously injured. I mean, she already broke an arm, but she would have been even more injured. So, that was, a celebration of, beating Duke. It was a really good Duke team. That Duke team went on and won the national title that year. But, there was an injury afterwards. So, the highs and the lows right there all in one story.
Doesn't it feel like, Chris Graham, there's a court storming incident every night in college basketball this season?
Because there's been a lot of upsets this season. Yeah, we got a couple of quasi-dominant teams, but even they've been upset on the road. Teams are playing well at home this year. Top 10 teams aren't playing so well on the road. So we have more reasons for there to be court storms. And, there's so much parity. I mean, most of these games involve unranked teams beating top 10 teams at home. So yeah, if you're a fan of a student or a fan of an unranked team beating a number 1 or 2 or 3 team at home, let's go run the court. And I think that there is a little bit of complicity here on the part of the TV networks, ESPN, and the other networks that show games. They show the court storms after the game, and it makes it feel like, hey, we got to do that when we win, and so it's just kind of an ecosystem that feeds itself.
What should we do? Just make sure Duke's better? What should we do?
I think, I think the SEC, I'm not sure for basketball, but I think in the field storming after wins in football games, you see conferences like the SEC have implemented pretty significant fines for schools that, don't protect the courts or the fields, after games. And, the folks at Wake Forest clearly did not have a plan.
No.
They couldn't have. I mean, if you just ring the court with enough people wearing the bright yellow jackets that you see of the court security type people, nobody's going to run on the court. And if you make an announcement ahead of the game and you reinforce, don't do this, maybe, I don't know that Jay Billis was that far off. I know some people said it was controversial for him to say arrest people, but I don't disagree with him that if he saw some people arrested that would make you think in the future, maybe we shouldn't do this if we're going to get arrested and have that go on our record. So there are a few things that can be done, but man, just having a plan in place and implementing it just seems pretty simple.
Just get better basketball teams, okay? Just stop it. Here's my rule. When we get to March Madness and a 2 seed loses again to a 15 seed, I'm not going to be shocked. And not like years past. Not with what I've seen the current state of college basketball the last 2 or 3 years, where anyone can win on any night and there's no mega teams anymore. I'm not shocked by any upset in March Madness. How about you, Chris?
Hey, I was in Orlando. I was down in your neck of the woods last year for a 4 seed, losing to a 13 and hadn't played in the NCAA tournament in 30-some years on a last-second three-pointer. I mean, yeah, it happens. And, that 4 seed was the Virginia team that I cover on a regular basis, had won the ACC regular season, had, tied with Miami, who went to a Final Four last year, and it lost in the ACC tournament to Duke. So, I mean, yeah, it happens. And I think that a big reason it happens is, the transfer portal being what it is. The portal goes in both directions. You've got players from power conferences who transfer down. You've got, and then, they're making those schools and then those conferences better. You've also got guys coming up from the smaller and mid-major conferences who then are succeeding at the power conference level. It just shows you that there's talent everywhere. And, the fact that the transfer portal, I think the transfer portal is equalizing the talent across the board as much as possible. And that's why we're not seeing, too many dominant teams. And even those supposedly dominant teams are very vulnerable in game, one-off situations. And so that's what makes March Madness exciting. I mean, so from the fan standpoint of it, the general fan standpoint of it, when it's your team that loses, it stinks.
No.
It stunk for me last year that Virginia lost that game, but from the general standpoint, that's why March Madness is what it is.
Hey, I took you out to lunch to this place called Harry Buffalo, which then closed down 2 months later. Come on, we have that memory.
No, I didn't know that.
I also drove Chris back to the airport from his hotel, and we were trying that new express highway off 4, and if you would have gotten an Uber, that probably would have cost you about $60. So that's how much I like you as a friend, that I drove you back to the airport.
Your drive back was like 10 minutes. The drive from the airport there and the Uber was like 45. So, yeah, whatever you did.
I'm a local. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. But we're here at Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. Would you take UConn or the field once we get to the tournament?
Oh, I would take the field. I mean, not to disparage UConn at all, but just from what we've been talking about, the NCAA tournament is a one and done kind of thing. And so, UConn won 6 games at the end of last season, 6 games in a row to win the national championship. But if you're giving me 67 other teams or one, UConn is not that dominant this year. They just got the doors blown off not that long ago by a good Marquette team, a good Creighton team. But in a one game scenario, a guy can get in foul trouble. A guy, your team can have an off shooting night. Good game plan by an opponent. I mean, So there are a lot of good teams. I don't know that I would even call this UConn team this year a great team. They're a really good team, but they can be beaten in a one-game scenario.
Is there anyone else you'd say I'd take them over the field?
No, not this year. I mean, I think we're going to see a repeat of last year. No number 1 seeds last year got into the Final Four. We had all those surprise teams. I think we're going to see something similar this year because it's almost like it's a disadvantage to be a top seed or, one of those top 4 seeds in a region because, what happens then, one thing I love about going to NCAA tournament early round games particularly is the fans in the arena, they're there to see their team. But if there's a top seed, and I've been there a lot in recent years with Virginia teams that are the top seed in the building, man, the rest of the building turns on that top seed if that game's anywhere close. And that's the, people want to see an upset. And so, it almost feeds itself there where in the first couple of rounds, if a team is on the ropes, people are pulling for that upset. So it's tough. I mean, anybody who's ever been to an NCAA tournament regional or anything like that, the tension is really so thick in the air. Every shot, it's so different than a regular season game. So, yeah, I mean, I think that that's what makes the NCAA tournament special and what makes it so tough to win. So I don't think there's anybody who can be above the fray in that respect in this year's environment.
All right, we've done our mandatory college basketball talk. Do you want to get to wrestling now? That's the question.
We can get to wrestling. I'm always ready for wrestling.
Since the last time I talked to you, we thought it was going to be, Cody Rhodes, and then The Rock showed up, but now it's Cody Rhodes again. What are your thoughts as we're still over a month away from WrestleMania?
Give WWE credit. They clearly, after The Rock was announced, and that plan apparently had been in the works for a while, the fans reacted very negatively. The WWE fans want to see Cody in that main event match. The folks who run TKO maybe aren't savvy and know wrestling as well as they know business, and thought, well, this Cody Rhodes guy, sure, he's a good wrestler, but The Rock is The Rock, right? And so we'll put Rock there. It was a quick pivot. I'll give the folks there, TKO and WWE credit. They didn't let it linger. They, didn't let it get, the negativity stay around for weeks. And I'll give Rock credit here too. I'm sure he did not want to come back and be a heel. It's fun, and he can play that role really well. That's where his career turned, was when he went from being babyface Rocky Maivia to the heel Rock. But he's embraced the role. He's playing it really well. I think it's turning out to me, it seems like it's much better that he's a heel in this scenario. And yeah, it's got me watching, and it's got a lot of us interested to see where they're going to take it. So they didn't plan this, but I'll give them credit. It's actually working out better than they planned.
The line The Rock said to the crowd in Salt Lake City was, "Shut your mouth or I'll slap the herpes off your face." That's what he said. It's great. You know why?
This is one of Hollywood's top movie stars healing out like that. I mean, that's where you got to give him credit. It's he could easily just say, "No, man, I can't do that. I can't say those kind of things to a crowd."
He also said,
"See my movies." But,
no. He also said to the Salt Lake City crowd, "This is Dwayne The Rock Johnson." You're right. Who's been in family movies? He said something of the lines of, "You and your multiple wives will be very upset by what's going to happen."
Yeah. This is I'll give him credit that I will say I wish Cody Rhodes had been willing to do this. When he was in AEW, there were a lot of folks who thought maybe Cody should turn heel. The AEW fans had kind of turned on him. Kind of like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns for many years, Vince McMahon kept Roman as a babyface when it was obvious that he was going to be so much of a better heel. And finally, Roman turns heel, and the last 3 years have been the years of Roman Reigns. No, you got to lean into it. Rock ain't leaning into it. He is going full steam ahead into it. Now, give the guy credit.
He called them the Cody Crybabies, which is pretty good.
Crybabies, yeah.
Did you like when they had the press conference during the Super Bowl week, where then they were all out there? I loved it. Did you?
I wouldn't call it a press conference, but it was the best part of WWE shows. WWE weekly TV, the worst part of WWE weekly TV is the actual matches, because they don't put a lot of effort into the matches.
No.
I mean, they put commercial breaks in the matches and then let the promo segments go on for 20 minutes. So that press conference, as they called it, was all promo segments. That's the best part of the show.
It was the most exciting thing during Super Bowl week. I'm not kidding. It was great. And you know what's funny about it? It wasn't on television. I watched it on TikTok, and it was on YouTube. Yeah. That's what was bizarre about it. It was great. I had it on Peacock. The first place I went was there, and it was there, and so they played it well, and they got. I mean, it was a free entry crowd. It was no admission to get in there, but they
thousands of people there to watch what was essentially literally just promos for an hour and a half.
That's right.
They can put butts in seats just for that.
You would so go to that. If it was like 20 minutes from your house, you'd so be there, Chris.
Oh, and that's the thing about doing it in Vegas. There's people milling around. I mean, that was smart. Do that every year now. They stumbled upon something there, just like they stumbled upon this main event. They stumbled upon something there. They got to continue. They got to do it for SummerSlam, I would say, and then for next year, certainly for WrestleMania.
You'd so go there. There are times I've been at Universal Studios in Orlando, and a person will come up to me, would you like to be in a taping for TNA Wrestling? And I'm like, no, not today. Sorry. I'm in Universal mode right now. Sorry. I've been to enough wrestling. But they still do that from time to time. They really do. All right.
I'd be there. I'd be there for TNA. They got some good stuff.
Look, you subscribe to Japanese wrestling. Who are we kidding here?
Yeah. I pay yen for Japanese wrestling. That's right.
We're here at Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. All right. So who is going to be the main event to take on Roman Reigns?
It's going to be Cody. They have to, and they had to. It's odd to say now because there's been a lot of behind the scenes reports that the plan was for Cody to win the Royal Rumble, but also not wrestle in the main event, and to delay that as far out as SummerSlam. Which was a bad read on WWE's part if that was going to be what they were going to somehow do. But at this point, now that they've turned it the way they have, they absolutely have to go that way. Now, the only question I've got is, do we see something on night one of WrestleMania, like a tag team match kind of thing? And it would make sense if they did that. Have Rock and Reigns team up against perhaps Rollins and Rhodes, and set up an angle where Rhodes gets hurt in the match, Rock and Reigns work him over or something like that, either during the match or after the match. And then, Cody has to come out in the main event on Sunday night, and he's an injured hero, and just give him even more odds to have to win, odds to overcome kind of thing. But, the main event on Sunday night has to be Cody versus Roman.
And it's in Philadelphia. How's the crowd going to play into this?
Yeah, Philadelphia, right? I mean, so if it was just a Philadelphia area crowd, that's the old ECW crowd, so how they would buy into it, gosh, they would probably back Cody, but WWE WrestleMania draws fans from around the world, so. And that said, those fans from around the world are going to, I would assume, they're going to want to see Cody win as a result of, because this story's been told for over 2 years now, dating back to when he first made the jump from AEW to WWE back in 2022. A lot of fans were upset that Cody didn't win last year. That said, we talked about this, Mark, before Royal Rumble. I still got concerns about where WWE goes if Cody wins the title. Do you break up the story that's been putting butts in seats and eyeballs on TV shows for the last 3 years? What's the plan for Cody as champion? Who are his top contenders? Brock Lesnar's not around anymore.
No.
Seth Rollins is hurt. CM Punk is hurt. So I don't know that it wouldn't surprise me if Roman doesn't walk out of WrestleMania as a champion still.
I think Cody wins, and then Roman finally gets a vacation where he gets like 2 or 3 months off, and then he comes back. That's what I imagine. Something like that. Maybe, maybe The Rock. Maybe The Rock takes over. He's got nothing going on.
Well, I mean, it would make sense that now that they've edited the story to include Rock in it as a compatriot of Roman Reigns, that you could work towards, in a few months, because SummerSlam's only 4 months away. It feels like it's supposed to be the other half of the calendar, so it should be 6 months away, but it's in August. So you could build towards Rhodes versus Rock at SummerSlam, and in the meantime have Cody feud with what's left of the bloodline, and give Roman a chance to go make a movie or something like that. I'm sure that's what's probably in his plans for the next few months.
Let's end with this here at Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. What we have been talking about over the last 5 or 6 minutes makes more sense to me than the current state of college football. I hope you know this.
Oh, no doubt. The problem with the current state of college football is you can't write it. You have to just see what happens, and also the uncertainty. At least we can book wrestling, but with the transfer portal and NIL, who knows from one day to the next who's going to be playing where.
Didn't the Commonwealth of Virginia and Tennessee, didn't they just win a court battle against the NCAA?
They won a preliminary injunction, which, is a step. And we all know where this is going to go. It's going to take not just that case, but the entire movement. The NCAA is eventually going to have to agree to, and the member institution is going to have to agree to start treating college athletes as paid employees. Not just pay them, but give them access to benefits, and that's going to upset everything. It's going to, when that happens, they're going to be, what they call the Olympic sports are going to be cut in droves. I mean, we are in line for upheaval. The only question isn't, that upheaval. It's just a matter of when. How many years out are we going to see these changes coming? For the average fan listening out there, though, it's not going to affect the two sports that most of you care intently about, men's basketball and, of course, football. But the sports after those, there's going to be a lot of changes.
Hey, look, if you want to pay these players, then you could start taxing them like employees as well. And same thing for the universities. Sorry, you're going to get taxed as well. Everyone's going to get taxed, and you're going to be like everyone else in this country. How about that?
I'm all for it. I'm for taxing everybody. I mean, we all take part in the system, so we are. Right. And the idea that people can write checks to athletics departments and get tax write-offs. I mean, there's nothing to college football or college basketball that should get you a tax write-off. You're not giving that money out of the goodness of your heart. You're giving it because you want your school to win.
And it affects the fans from the standpoint of, look, schools want you to donate to their school. Then they also want you to donate to the collective now. I don't have all this money to just start giving up all how is this going to work after a while?
Yeah. Well, and, the collectives will go away. They'll be subsumed within the athletics department. That'll be a great thing that'll happen. It should happen sooner rather than later. But I mean, the hard part's going to be then, when that all happens, do people still donate if they can't get tax write-offs? Because, I mean, for people like you and me and most of the people listening, Mark, I mean, if we donate money, it's not a lot, but it's the big donors. It's the millionaire and billionaire, quote unquote, philanthropists who write the big check to get their name on a new stadium or new arena, new wing of a school or something like that. That's who's going to be affected from their tax standpoint. Will they continue donating those dollars is a big question.
Look, all I know is I'll see you at Mania. Steel cage match. All right? That's what we're going with. So ridiculous. Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. My man, thank you for your help and have a great day.
Thanks, Mark.